91-year-old and a 21-year-old like me have in common? Well, it's the ability and the love to compete in the sport of pickleball. Pickleball is a cross between badminton, tennis, and table tennis, or ping pong. And according to the USAPA, which is the United States of America Pickleball Association, there are over 400,000 active players today. As an enthusiast myself, I've researched the topic of pickleball because I didn't want to step on the court with the veterans and be all embarrassed. So, if you haven't been struck by this craze yet, I'm going to give you a brief history of the game, the equipment needed to play, and an overview of the rules. Pickleball originated in Bainbridge, Washington, which is near Seattle, in 1965. Joel Pritchard and Bill Bell are considered the inventors, and Joel Pritchard was the governor of Washington at the time, but he's actually more famous for inventing the game of pickleball. They decided to play pickleball the first time because they came home after playing a round of golf and saw their family sitting around, and it was the middle of a summer day. They had nothing to do, and when they tried to scrounge up enough rackets to play badminton, they couldn't. So they improvised with some ping pong paddles and a plastic ball, and they played with rules similar to badminton. The first court was installed in 1967. The USAPA was created in 1984, and the first rule book was released then. And in 2001, pickleball was included in the Senior Olympics in Arizona, and there was 100 players, which was the biggest tournament at that time. In 2001, the first USAPA national tournament was held in Arizona, and there was 400 players there. And today, there are over 2,000 locations, and if you want to find one near you, you can check out usapa.org. And like I said, it started with those two guys and their families, and now it's over 400,000 players, and it's still growing. So now that you know a little bit about the history, I'm going to talk about the equipment. The paddles used to play look similar to this, or like this, I guess. It can't exceed 24 inches in perimeter. It's made of wood or graphite or a composite of the two materials. And then the balls look like this. They're wiffle balls. It's a hard plastic, about 3 inches in diameter, and about 1.2 ounces. The courts are either like a hardwood gym floor or a tennis court, so that textured concrete. They are 44 feet long, so that's 22 feet to a side, which is why it appeals to the older players. It's not as wide as a tennis court either. It's about the third of the size of a tennis court. It's 20 feet wide. The service boxes, these 4 boxes here, are 15 by 20 feet. And the kitchen, which is this shaded area here, is 7 by 20 on each side. And since the kitchen term is probably new to you, I'll talk about that in the rules. The general rules of the game are you play to 11 and win by 2. You can only score when you're serving. You serve from the right side to start, and then if you win the point, you alternate to the left side. You have to serve cross court, so if you're serving from this box, you have to serve into this box, past this line of the kitchen. When you serve, the ball has to bounce in that box, and then when the other opposing team returns it, it has to bounce on your side before you can hit it. And then once you're in the middle of the volley, you can hit it out of the air. But it just has to bounce on the serve, bounce on the return, and then you can go for it. You can't step into this kitchen box unless the ball bounces in there. Even if you fall into it after you hit it, that's still a fault, and it's the other team's point. The singles, you can play pickleball with singles or doubles, and in the singles game, when your score is even, you serve from the right side. When your score is odd, you serve from the left side. And then in the doubles game, one person serves from the right side or the left side, doesn't matter. And if the opposing team gets the point, then your partner gets to serve. And then if the opposing team gets that point, then they serve. So you have to side out twice when you're receiving in order to get the serve back. So through this brief history of the game, an overview of the equipment you need, and an overview of the rules, I hope you've learned a little bit about the sport of pickleball. And if you would like more information, you can visit usapa.org. And I'm sure you're still wondering why it's called pickleball, and that's because when they first invented the game, Joel Pritchard's dog was named Pickles, and he would chase after the balls when they ran off the court. So they called it pickleball.